Listen, Rolls-Royce is a beautiful car just sitting there. And it's a spectacularly luxurious car. Parked and looking at it. But I really can't wait to get in one of these and drive it. It's supposed to be torquey, 300 miles of range, silent. I mean, if you've ever been in a Rolls-Royce, a newer one, you get the part about cocooning yourself. Lincoln is trying to do something similar to that in their advertising, escape from it, get away from it all, and I think they've been somewhat successful in that. And the Rolls-Royce, without a doubt, is that upper end of the world is over there, I'm over here. The troubles of my day are outside of this car. I'm in this car, my troubles have gone away. Now, we all know in reality that's not the case. Your troubles are still there, no matter what. But, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm here to tell you that if you're driving this, I think it's around $300,000 is what they have said. They're estimating that this thing is gonna run. If you're driving to work in this car every day, your troubles or your perception of your troubles, I guarantee you, will be less. Many years ago, not that many years ago, I guess, but somewhat a bunch of years ago, I had a Rolls-Royce for a week here in Seattle before I went back to Pittsburgh, so I know it was at least 10, 12 years ago. And I will tell you that traffic is better in a Rolls-Royce. The idea of sitting there communally with all these other people on a strip of concrete that's elevated above the streets through a city, or in some cases, as in Seattle, below a street, is so much more palatable when you have the kind of luxury around you, this opulent luxury that Rolls-Royce delivers. It puts your whole mindset in a different place when you drive to work or to play or wherever you're going in a car like this. You feel good. You look good. I hazard a guess that you even smell good when you get out of a car like this. There's just something about it. And I don't know, I'm sure we could have... Maybe we could have my therapist on, and she could talk about the connection between the car and the mind and the status and all of that stuff. I just know from an inside feeling that when you drive one of these cars, when you pull up to a place that you're going in one of these cars, that your perspective on what's going on around you in life changes. The toughest job in the world is having to give it back after you get it on loan for 4 days or for a week or for whatever it is. That's the toughest job in the world, is, not getting the car, not driving it around, not finding a place to park where it says supervised, because they don't just let you take a Rolls-Royce and park it on the street. Although I do remember, I went to... It's the place downtown, the Metropolitan Grill. I went for dinner at the Metropolitan Grill, and I pulled up at the valet parking with the Rolls-Royce. And the guy looked at, first of all, 3 guys came over, whatever Volvo they were getting into. These 3 valet guys were now arguing about who was going to get to check in the Rolls-Royce. So I pull up, and, I get out, I was married at the time. My wife was with me. They hold the door for her. Boom. But, and the thing is when you're driving a Rolls Royce, you feel innately compelled to tip the person at the valet before you go inside. So, I pull $5 out of my pocket and hand it to the guy to take good care of it. And, he doesn't take it around to the garage You know, he has a car in a space right in front of the Metropolitan, and all of a sudden I look and I can see from from inside where you go in and check in for your reservations, they've moved now that other car out of the space, and the Rolls is sitting in the space. I mean, it's royalty. When it comes to cars, a Rolls-Royce is royalty. Now, I probably, if I pulled up, I'm trying to think, I definitely had pulled up to the Metropolitan in my Corvette at one time, and I think that kind of got the same treatment, but there's certain cars that you drive that get this treatment of, it's special. It's different. You've made their day by bringing that car to the valet park and letting them, take a spin around the block in it or whatever, So these cars really do bring out the best in people, I would think, in that you feel special driving this car down the street. When people stop and look at it, you feel special. Probably the only time you don't feel special in one of these cars is if you're driving downtown and somebody tries to carjack you. Then maybe you don't feel so much as special, but that's never happened to me. I know it's happened to some people, and I know you have to take precautions these days because if you're driving something like this down, I'm not just going to say Seattle, I think anywhere these days, you have to be on the lookout, you have to be on guard, you have to be aware of your surroundings, but sometimes I think that's whether you're driving a Plymouth Valiant or a Rolls-Royce Spectre. It's the world we live in today. And for many people, especially in a place like Seattle, where I don't know, maybe this is true, maybe this is not. I think it's changed since I left and came back, that the showing off of your success, your opulence, whatever it is, used to be in Seattle that you didn't show off, no matter how rich you were. You didn't show that you had a better car than everybody else. You didn't show that you had a better house. You were kind of humbled into it. And then the tech thing came along, and things kind of changed a lot. And the old Seattle left, and a newer, more willing to show off what you've earned Seattle showed up in its place. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with that. But, people didn't generally go out and buy, if you were going out and buying a fancy car, you bought a Volvo instead of an Oldsmobile. That was a fancy car here in Seattle. Or a Saab. People definitely bought cars along nationalistic lines. And it was cool though to see that. I thought it was matter of fact, it was one of the things I really loved about Seattle when I got here, is that there wasn't that push like in San Francisco where I'd lived before. I mean, you showed whatever you had as far as wealth, you showed it. You brought it, it was a status symbol. Here it is now, but I think in those days it was different. Let me see if I can get another couple of pictures here. Just if you are watching on, look at that. If you can see it, the rear comes down in a fastback kind of slope. It's not a full hatchback, as you can see. There's a deck lid here that goes under the rear window, so it's not the entire thing. Deck lid goes up. It's just the bottom part under the window would go up and give you a trunk space and probably some other space in there. But it's stunning. The line on the car from the line across the belt of the car that intersects with the line from the front that comes up and back, it intersects with the line coming from the rear that starts out with a kind of a hunched fender well and moves into a smooth line that ends up at the front door handle, which opens from the front, not from the rear, is a very different design, and one I think will be copied by many a designer. The interior in this car, I mean, look at it. If you can see it. If you can't see it, if you're just listening on the radio, again, stunning is the way that you would describe it. Analog looking gauges in front of the driver, a white and black steering wheel, smooth and soft. And you know, when you can look at an interior and tell how smooth it is, you know you got something. A full screen across the dashboard that gives you all of the information, the infotainment, but then again, redundant manual controls under the air conditioning vents that are centered a la Rolls-Royce in the middle of the dashboard, with a couple other buttons for I don't know what they're for because I can't get into the car and look, but to say that the interior is stylish and stunning and well thought out from what I can see in the pictures would be an understatement. It is a car that will be looked at and to in the future as a design standard. Gee, doesn't that Ford Granada look like a Mercedes? Well, a little bit. Well, yeah, that's the design standard. That's what they're copying now. I think you'll see that with this Rolls. Anyway, I spent a lot of time talking about this car, but I do think that it is, when a benchmark vehicle is released, that you need to see that and to look at that. Now, to be fair here, Rolls was not the only manufacturer that put out a vehicle, on display this week, their future on display. One of the other vehicles that came out in Los Angeles was an incredible, I think, achievement for Cadillac, in that Cadillac came out with a $300,000 vehicle of their own, the Celestiq, which I'm trying to get it up for you now on the screen here to take a look, and here you go. Here is your Cadillac. Here is your equivalent of the Rolls-Royce for Americans. This is the Cadillac Celestiq all-electric, $300,000. If you are a Cadillac lover, if you want to buy American. Now, I bring up the Cadillac for a couple of reasons. Number one, it came out on Wednesday, I believe, and to a rave review down in Los Angeles. And you can certainly see that it is designed differently than most anything that you see out there. This is a radical departure for Cadillac, and I think it's quite stunning as a vehicle. If you saw one of these coming down the street, you'd stop and you'd look at it and say, "Whoa, what's that?" And then you would find out. Maybe you would think it was some kind of European sedan or something along those lines. The work on the lights in the rear, especially, with a sweeping tail light that's above the belt line and around the side of the car, and then a lower tail light that integrates with the outer rear quarter panel. It's unique. Does it look like a $300,000 car? See, when I look at the Rolls, I immediately look at it and go, Somebody's got to have some coin to buy this. When I look at the Celestiq, and I am a fan of this car, I think it's a beautiful car in many respects, but it doesn't hit me up initially. And then again, when you see a car in person, different things happen. But it doesn't hit me up as a car that is like the Rolls-Royce does. The Rolls-Royce says to me, you got somewhere in life. I don't know if the Celestiq does the same thing to me. Now again, you need to reserve judgment until you see it in person. See what it looks like. Look at the lines up close. Sometimes pictures do not do a car justice. Sometimes they do. And in this case, this Cadillac Celestiq, this 2024, this is a $300,000 vehicle that I think people are going to have questions about. Again, a sharp-looking vehicle, but the Rolls-Royce designed with, and you know, somebody will say, well, you're comparing a Rolls-Royce to a Cadillac. Well, you know what? Cadillac, by charging $300,000 for this car, is comparing themselves to Rolls-Royce. That's the neighborhood that they want to move into. And that's a tough neighborhood because you're judged on so many different parameters that have nothing to do with the, you know, the $27,000 Toyota Corolla that you're going to go out there and buy at the dealer, and it's going to be your family car for the next 7 or 8 or 10 years. There is a certain amount of status, of perceived artwork that come along with buying one of these cars. You buy this car because it's beautiful, because it's luxurious, but you also buy this car because it looks good at the clubhouse, the golf course, the country club, the places where people like you and me don't often get to go. Let's face it. The only way I get to drive one of these is if Cadillac calls me up and says, Vinnie, we'd like you to drive our Celestiq. The only way I get to drive a Rolls-Royce is to get an email from the Rolls-Royce people and says, Vinnie, we'd like you to drive this for a week and tell us what you think. Otherwise, you know, I wouldn't have a chance in hell of getting close to a new Rolls-Royce, a $300,000 car. No, to be honest with you, I don't know that I'd buy a $300,000 car, but I don't know that I'd buy a Van Gogh. I don't know that I'd buy Whistler's mother if I was offered the opportunity to, but I sure like to go to the museum and look at them and check them out. Or, you know, if somebody buys one and they park it in front of Nordstrom's, I certainly want to take a look at it. So the Celestiq, you'll see the pictures if you can see them at home, and if not, I'll put them up on the website. Again, trying to move into that Rolls-Royce neighborhood, but by the looks of things, and I'm just going again, just what you can see from a picture, and pictures often are different than what real life is. The two cars, I mean, the Rolls-Royce definitely wins the race. And again, now we're talking about cars as art, not just as transportation. We're talking about cars as a means of expressing yourself, which is what, you know, when you get to that level, I think that's what you deal with. On a lesser level, you deal with it at places like Shoreline Cars and Coffee, at the auto show, at different places that people are able to customize, able to put different components on their car that change the look of the car to reflect some of what their personality is. And between the Celestiq and the Rolls, right now, today at 8:33 in the morning, the Celestiq has won me is a cut below the Rolls. The Rolls just makes you fall in love with it. The Celestiq is a car that you have to stop and think about falling in love with for a couple of minutes. And listen, that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that for me, personally, and I am a Cadillac lover. Boy, that'd be a great title for a cartoon, wouldn't it? I'm your Cadillac lover. Nathan, we got to get to work on that. We got to get to work on writing that song. The Cadillac lover. Anyway, so we got that. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we got a cartoon for you. Plus, we'll take you to the other end of the spectrum when it comes to new cars that we saw this week. This is DriveTime Radio. I'm New York Vinnie, right here at 1150 KKNW.
American cars guzzle gas. American cars are all style and no substance. American cars don't last. To all that, American Motors says nuts. This American Motors Concorde and this Spirit are built to be more than just good looking. They're tough. Tougher than ever before. The only American cars with galvanized steel and 100% of the exterior body panels. That's right, 100%. And Concorde and Spirit are more fuel efficient than ever before. This Concorde actually gives you better mileage than Chevy Citation. Only the tough Americans give you Z-Bard factory rust protection and a full 5-year no rust through warranty.
Tough can be beautiful.
Plus the exclusive American Motors Buyer Protection Plan, still with the best economy car warranty coverage in the industry. Concorde and Spirit, for good-looking high-mileage cars, don't sell the tough American short. Concorde and Spirit, built to last, from American Motors.
Miss a show on KKNW? Check out 1150kknw.com for podcasts of many of our programs. That's 1150kknw.com.
And welcome back to Drive Time Radio. New York Vinnie hanging out with you here on a Saturday morning, as we usually do. And we are so happy to be here with you. We've been talking cars this morning. We talk cars every morning. That's what we do. Well, every Saturday morning. You can also catch me along with my buddy Michael Knight Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings right here on Facebook Live. We're not on Celestial Radio. We're just on Facebook Live. In our Mikey and Vinny Take on the World program, which is quickly becoming a program that people call their neighbors and tell them about. Matter of fact, I know our friend Nathan, our producer Nathan, has called his friends and said, "Leah, you got to listen to Mikey and Vinny there. Something that will just change your life if you listen. Absolutely change your life." Right, Nathan?
I had people listen when the Mariners, were having the Astros troubles and get a good perspective and honest take on why things happen, and it felt really genuine. So it's like, everybody check this out. Listen to this perspective.
You're a good man, Nathan. You are a good man. How are you, Nathan?
I'm doing good. Happy to be breathing easy again after we had, 2 months of smoke, it seems like?
Yeah.
Boy, it was starting to get to me on Thursday. Felt like I had a nosebleed without a bloody nose.
Yeah, it was nasty. As I said, was telling you earlier before we started the show, I went and actually slept in the car 2 nights because the vehicle I was driving, the Buick that I was driving, had a filtration system in it. So if you're inside of it and the air is being filtered, that comes in, and I remember taking a look at the filter that was in the car and saying, "Wow!" The thing was filled with just. I'm saying, am I putting that in my lungs? It was filled with green and black, and it was just a nasty combination. So, but thank God that the rain has come and this is happening. If you're going, and the air is clearing up, if you are going through the passes this morning, be aware, be careful, because there is snow in the Snoqualmie Pass. I don't know if it's stuck, it stayed, it's icy. I don't know what happened as far as the snow that was falling yesterday. But the snow is falling and was falling, and so it's official. So next week we'll spend a little time telling you about just kind of walking you through some of the things you need to do for your car. I will be in Spokane next week doing the show as we come to you from over there and bring the Ford Lightning pickup truck out to the Lightning F-150 all-electric truck. We're going to take it out there and see what the boys on the other side of the state, and girls for that matter, what the people on the other side of the state think about this vehicle that everybody's talking about, nobody can get, and is, again, the rage of the trucking world right now. That and Elon Musk, who is, I guess, going to roll out his self-driving Tesla truck in the very near future. I guess Pepsi is going to get the delivery of the first couple of trucks. So if you're driving down the highway and you see a truck next to you that has no driver, why, don't panic. Don't grab the steering wheel and go the other way, which I suspect is going to happen. At some point, somebody is going to be driving along and going to look up into that truck and they're going to see nothing there and, drive off the road or something. God forbid, but let's talk reality here and how things actually go as opposed to how we wish they would go. Now, what I suggest to Tesla, and I don't think they'll do it, but at least I could make the suggestion, is you might want to go back and watch the movie Airplane and look at the automatic pilot. They had this automatic pilot that was actually a blow-up automatic pilot. I would suggest to Tesla that maybe you buy some of these or find some of these somewhere in a thrift shop in L.A. and put that in the driver's seat of your Tesla truck, so people won't be shocked out of their underwear when they see this driverless truck coming down the street. Just a little public service for Elon Musk, who will own all of us this week after he buys Twitter. He's buying our many people's biggest addiction, which is social media. And he's supposed to be buying Twitter. We'll see how that all goes and what changes that will bring to Twitter. All right, time for the car song. We have our cartoon that we do every week because cars and music go together so well. This one came out of left field. Much of my week came out of left field, and if you ask anybody who was around this morning at 7:45, they'll tell you that it came out of left field. But this is one of my favorite bands of the 60s and the 70s, but certainly rooted in the 60s and the hippie days, was Jethro Tull. Ian Anderson is the lead singer and the flautist that you will hear. And, did many great songs like Aqualung and, just a catalog of really incredible songs that were a little different than the regular rock and roll that you heard of the day. It incorporated wind instruments. It incorporated a different sound that Anderson and his guys were able to capture and be distinct about. When you heard a Jethro Tull record back in the 60s and the 70s, you knew it was Jethro Tull. There wasn't anybody else that record was going to be. They were so good that nobody even really tried to imitate them. That's how good they were. Anyway, Jethro and the boys, or Ian and the boys, have a driving song. And I thought that we would play it for you now. Probably hasn't been played on the radio in 100 years, but of course here at DriveTime Radio we try to do many things that haven't been done in 100 years. So here is Jethro Tull on DriveTime Radio. There you go, Jethro Tull. And a quick little ditty from an album that I'm trying to remember when Tull did that. Driving Song is the name of the song. I believe that was from Stand Up, which was back in 1970, something like that, 69. Like Wavy Gravy said, if you remember the 60s, you weren't there. So, anyway, that is our cartoon of the week, brought to you in the hopes that you will match up your music and your cars and your drives, and may they all be happy and musical for you. And we really always appreciate that and the fact that you are musically inclined. All right, before we get to York Vinnie and our review, I can't hold this in. I wanted to hold it until next week, and unfortunately, it's not working out the way I thought it would. So I want to introduce you to, we talk about the big luxurious cars on one end of the spectrum. Well, this week, we also get a chance to talk about a car that I'm pretty sure that Nathan is going to fall in love with. I know I saw it, and I did. It is the Microlino. I just love saying the name. The Microlino. We got it up on the screen, I believe, if you are watching us on Facebook. This is the Microlino. It's made by a scooter company in, there's an Italian connection to it, but I believe they're in Switzerland. And this is this crazy-looking little car, but yet, as we say in the car business, nothing's new. Everything is just an idea that's regurgitated. Well, this car is an idea that was regurgitated from the 50s and early 60s. The Microlino is a direct hit on the Messerschmitts and the Isettas, the BMWs of the day. And what made these cars unique is the shape that you see, the smallness of them, which they're not cars that you're going to take into the country or out on up the pass or anything like that. I think the top speed on this thing is only about 70 miles an hour. But if you go to retirement communities, you see a lot of this type of car. It almost look like golf carts. There is a provision in the federal law that says that you can make a car that goes under, speed limit on the street has to be, I think it's 25 or 35 miles an hour. And this car fits that bill perfectly, as you can see on the front, from the rear, the unique shape, the easy plug-in. You can even, they even advertised that it has completely easy parking. You can cross park, getting out directly on the sidewalk. And by cross park, they mean that you park them with the door of the car facing the curb. Now you say, Vinny, why is that unique? Well, this car has a door that opens in the front. The whole front of the car opens, and that's how you get in and out of the car. I love, before I switch to the front view here, I love the fact that I love it and I don't love it, actually. In the ad here, and again, this is Europe, it says space for two. Space for 2 adults and 3 beer crates. Yes, that's right. On the advertising right there. Space for 2 adults and 3 beer crates. I think you're going to have to change that. But this is how the Microlino opens up and looks, and I find it fascinating. I watched a couple of videos on this thing this week, and I just fell in love with this car. I so want one of these. Now, they're not going to come to the United States just yet unless somebody brings one over. There's no plans to import them, and they would probably have to do at least some work on it to comply with federal regulations, but I sincerely hope they do. Again, it is not a car that's for everybody or everything. But if you're one of those people, and I saw this a lot at the electric car show that I went to up in Everett a couple of weeks ago, older people who were looking at these cars and saying, wow, I can save some cash, save some electricity, I can charge it at home, I can do this, I can do that. This is the perfect car for those who only go downtown and then back to their house that's just in another part of the city. Maybe they don't have to take the freeway to get there. They can just, go up the boulevard and get to their house. The perfect car for that. It'll charge in 4 hours. I forget what the range is on this, but I think it was about 175, 200 miles, something like that. And you can park them, as you see here, 3 of them in a row and in one parking space. I think it's a cute little car. I think it's something that, again, shows that electric cars are the design factor, and the people that are thinking about these things make these cars able to be diverse and special purpose. I think this car is going for actually around $14,000. And if I need a car for my kid to take to school, if I need a car for my mother-in-law to, well, I don't have a mother-in-law anymore, but, a second car to go grocery shopping or to the mall or here or there, and it doesn't involve getting on the freeway. What more perfect is roomy inside? I mean, you couldn't get more perfect than the Microlino. So that's something we'll examine it more in weeks to come. But I couldn't hold this in. I had to. I had to say, look, this is the Microlino. You got to see this thing. Hey, what can I tell you? Some days that's how it rolls. You know, you just you get a secret, you get something, you find something, and you can't wait. I found this thing this past week, and it was hard for me not to put it up on the website, and but I wanted to save it for the show and for the people that listen and that participate in the show. So that's the Microlino. You can find them at microlino-car.com. And I suggest you go and take a look, because I think you're looking at the future. I think you're looking at a car that is snappy, that, as we talked about before, shows off your personality. But I don't know, what's $14,000 from $300,000? I mean, it shows off your individuality at a much less price, at a better price, at a price that you can afford. So that's it. The Microlino. I just love saying the name. It's the Microlino. Sounds like you're ordering SpaghettiOs, right? Let me have a Microlino and a meatballs, please. I can do that. I'm Italian. I'm not culturally appropriating. Oh man, this show sometimes is amazing. And it really says something to me that that I make it for an hour, and that my good friend Nathan doesn't just shut me off and play like elevator music in my place. Nathan, have you ever been tempted to do that?
Now is probably a good time.
You think so, huh? You're just sitting there saying to yourself, well, let me just shut this all off here. This is this could be a little crazy here. I'm just trying to find quickly something before we get out of here, because I know we're right up against the clock and we got to get going. So, Nathan, why don't you ask me the magic question?
Yo, Vinny, what are you driving this week?
What am I driving this week? Nathan, I'm driving the 2023 QX55 from Infiniti. And, this is a mighty nice car. This is, Infiniti has upped their game over the last year or so, and has really done a nice job of design. I mean, they've stuck with this design for a while, but the QX55, which starts around $50,000, somewhere in there, is it's one of those cars. It's a crossover, it's a coupe, and it's kind of an SUV. I mean, it has the all-wheel drive, but I love the style of this vehicle. I love the way it has kind of a springy look, what I call a springy look. It looks like it's ready to jump off into traffic and go. And a comfortable car, a very safe car. The Nissan technology around their driver assistance items that are in the car is really second to none. I mean, they really do a lot of interesting things with this car, where you can hit a button on the steering wheel and practically drive this thing, by itself without your assistance. But you do have to, you still have to keep your hands. Well, you don't have to really keep your hands on the wheel, but you have to be attentive as to what's happening. But the QX55 is in that class of crossovers that. If you're looking for a vehicle to pack the family in, maybe this isn't the car for you. But if you're looking for a vehicle that maybe you and your wife or your partner or your friend or whatever, you go on trips and you got to put a few pieces of luggage in the back, and you want something that looks good, that's sporty, has a great design to it, and makes you feel good driving it. The QX55 is a really interesting vehicle in that area. The interior is a sharp-looking interior. The dashboard is well laid out. It really gives you a sense of that they didn't just slap this thing together. That this was thoughtfully designed and put out. It gives you a feeling of elegance and performance, which is a nice intersection. When you can have elegance in a car, when you can have a vehicle that looks like it's ready to spring into action and go, and you combine that with performance that, will get you up and go when you hit the gas, the QX55 seems to be an exciting car. We're going to have more fun with it this week, take it up on a nice road trip this weekend, and see exactly what it's gotten, and of course report back to you next week on the Drive Time Road Test. All right, that is going to put it in the books for another edition of Drive Time. We always like to remind you about one of our great friends, George Jackson. If you have advertising specialties that you need, find George on Facebook, George Jackson Promotions. He's a good guy, and he deserves your business. Take it from me. If you support him, you support the show. And so thank you to everybody who makes the show possible. My friend Keith, don't forget, we'll be in Spokane next week. Have a good week, and we'll see you next week if the Lord's willing and the creek don't rise. Take care.
The views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of KKNW, its management, or other advertisers. Contests are the responsibility of the hosts of this program and not KKNW. This is 1150 AM KKNW Seattle and KPNW 98.9 FM HD3 Seattle.
NBC News Radio, I'm Scott Carr. Humanitarian aid is finally starting to trickle into the war-torn Gaza Strip. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres was at the border with Egypt as a small convoy of about 20 trucks carrying food, water, and medical supplies entered Gaza.
So these trucks are not just trucks. They are a lifeline.
Israel's now resumed airstrikes on the Strip. Reuters reporting there was heavy bombardment throughout Gaza overnight. Many world leaders are now in Cairo at a peace summit talking about ways to de-escalate the war. Former President Donald Trump's being fined $5,000 after violating a gag order in his New York fraud trial. Trump had left up for nearly 2 weeks a post on Truth Social attacking the judge's law clerk working on the case. The judge warned Friday Trump would be fined and could face jail time for any future violations. Scott Carr, NBC News Radio.
The views expressed on this program are those of the host, guest, and callers and are not necessarily those of KKNW, its management, or other advertisers. This program is sponsored by Scandinavian Hour.
God morgon, hör fåglar sjunga glatt. God morgon i kör.
Morgon, mina vänner, and välkommen till den skandinaviska timmen med det bästa skandinaviska musik. This is Seth Tufteland and friends with the best of Scandinavian music, news, and interviews each Saturday here on KKNW. Join us for the next hour as we bring you lots of music, news, and interview. We're going to start out in Sweden this morning. This is Sven Bertil Taub, and the piece is Så långe skytten kan gå. And then from Norway, Sigrid Moldestad with Olaus Venn.
Så länge skutan kan gå, så länge hjärtat kan slå, så länge solen den glittrar på böljorna blå. Om blott en dag eller två, så håll till godo ändå. För det finns många som aldrig en ljusglimt kan få. Och vem har sagt att just du kom till världen för att få solsken och lycka på färden? Att under stjärnornas glans bli purrad ut i en skans, att få en kyss eller två i en yrande dans. Ja, vem har sagt att just du ska ha hörsel och syn, höra böljornas brus och kunna sjunga? Och vem har sagt att just du ska ha bästa menyn och som fågeln på vågorna gunga? Och vid motorernas gång och ifall vakten blir lång, så minns att snart klämtar klockan för dig, ding ding dong. Så länge skutan kan gå, så länge hjärtat kan slå, så länge solen den glittrar på böljorna blå. Så ta med glädje ditt jobb fast du lider, snart får du vila för eviga tider. Men inte hindrar det alls att du är glad och ger hals, så kläm nu i med en